everyone, this is Nickredace coming at you with a brand new video. This time we're going to be talking about the new and updated Zombie Revenant deck. This is going to include some of the newest zombie support that came out not too long ago and show you guys just how far my zombie deck has improved since last time we looked at it. So let's go straight into it with one of our first cards, Vampire Fraulein. Fraulein is a dark level 5 zombie effect monster with the effect of when a monster declares an attack, you can special summon this card from your hand in defense position. You can only use this effect Fraulein once per battle. If your zombie monster battles an opponent's monster during that damage calculation, you can pay life points multiples of 100, max 3000, and your battling monster gains that much attack defense during damage calculation only. At the end of the battle phase, if this card destroyed any monster by battle, you can special summon them from the graveyard to your field. So the main reason for having her in this deck is she stops 90% of combat death to your zombie creatures. She hits the field, usually the enemy doesn't want to have to deal with losing their cards, because at this point hopefully you have a zombie world on the field, and if you have zombie world on the field, your opponent attacks into it. Fraulein can now give attack to any of your creatures. Also defense, and I have killed quite a few people who've attacked a defense position monster. The thing is, you summon her, they have the ability to redeclare the attack. If they do on her or weaker monster, you can increase the defense of that monster and kill them via defense damage, which I've done a few times. The next card we're going to go into is one of the newer cards, Al-Ghul Mazra. It is a level 8 zombie effect monster with the effect of, if a zombie monster or monsters you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish this card from your hand or graveyard instead. If this card is banished from the hand or graveyard, you can special summon this card in defense position, then you can reduce its level by 1. That is optional, that one. You can only use each effect of Mazra once per turn. So, decent stats, and the effect to protect your monsters, zombie monsters, by battle card effect. Usually I wouldn't do for battle. It's more of a, oh, I activate X, Y, or Z to destroy your card. No, you're not. And the fact that he summons himself when he gets banished is fantastic. He hits the field, and you're pretty good. He's also really good because you can use him for things like link summoning and such, resource, and then if he's in the graveyard, he can summon himself, because he can summon himself from the hand or graveyard. So he's a hand trap and a graveyard trap. Fantastic new addition to this deck. I'm really glad that he's a thing. Next, we move into, of course, the staple of any zombie deck nowadays, Mizuki. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Level 4 Earth zombie monster with the effect of you can banish him from your graveyard, target one zombie monster in your graveyard, and special summon it. Simple as that. Usually target of Omega to constantly recycle your graveyard, so you can constantly summon monsters from the graveyard. Gozuki. I can go into a little more depth with Gozuki. Gozuki allows you to send one zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard, and you can special summon one zombie monster from your hand by banishing one monster in your graveyard except himself when he is sent to the graveyard. Again, it's a decent effect. Usually I use it just for the sending card to the graveyard. Depending on what you have in the graveyard at the time, you can send another Mizuki, get your play off, or send something like an Uni zombie, get a play off. Good play enabler. Next, we have another staple of the deck along with Mizuki, Shiranui Solitaire. Solitaire is level 4 fire effect zombie, and its effect is you contribute one zombie monster, usually himself, special summon from your deck one zombie tuner with 0 defense from your deck, and if this card is banished, you can target one of your banished Shiranui monsters except himself, or up to 2 if you have Shiranui Synthesis on the field and special summon them. Of course, you can only use their effects once per turn, and its stats are kind of garbage, but we don't care about stats, because his main effect is he gets on the field, contribute him, summon Uni Zombie. Uni Zombie sends Mizuki to the graveyard. The Mizuki then summons Solitaire. You go into level 8 Synchro. Also, he can be used with the Spectral Blade to go into Synchro Wing Dragon, which is another fantastic Synchro card. Staple speeds up this deck so much. Speaking of Uni Zombie, here he is. Uni Zombie is level 3 Dark Monster with slightly better stats than Solitaire, and its effect is as follows. You can target one face-up monster on the field, including himself, discard one card, and if you do, increase its level by 1, the target's level. You can target one face-up monster in the field. You can also do it from the deck, but when you do it from the deck, monsters you control cannot attack, except for zombie monsters. Usually doesn't matter, because you have zombie world on the field. Send one zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard. If you do, increase that target by 1. Again, fantastic. Send Mizuki to the graveyard, or other playmakers like Balrog, Doom King, etc. One of the newer staples of the deck, I think it was in the last one I did, but this falls into the Solitaire Uni Zombie Mizuki The effect of Necroworld Banshee in zombie decks is amazing due to the fact that you no longer have to search for terraforming, especially since it got limited, and it's a zombie monster, which means Zombie and other discard effects can send her to the graveyard, and then she should be activated. Also, depending on your plays, you can normal summon her, use her for Synchro, and then banish her from the graveyard, get to play. Her effect is as follows. Zombie world and the field zone cannot be destroyed by card effects. Also, neither player can target with card effects. That's only really useful when she's on the field, which she almost never is. Her main effect, quick effect, you can banish this card from your field or graveyard. Activate one zombie world directly from your hand or deck. Again, fantastic. Would always keep in the deck. Same stats. Similar stats to Zombie, if not slightly better. Next, we have not really a staple of the deck, but it does help the deck for cards in the extra deck and using some of golden spell cards for zombies. So Eldlich, the Golden Lord, is a level 10 zombie effect monster, light, which is rare since most of them are dark. You can send this card and one spell trap card from your hand to the graveyard, then target one card in the field, send it to the graveyard. Pretty decent. I usually don't use that one too much. If this card's in your graveyard, you can send one spell or trap you control to the graveyard, add this card to your hand, then special summon one zombie monster from your hand. Usually he's used for you send one of your spell traps to the graveyard, he comes to your hand, and then you special summon him. And if you do until the end of your opponent's turn, that card gains 1000 attack defense, cannot be destroyed by card effects. It has really good stats for its, well, I can't say for its level, but for the fact that you're never going to normal summon him at all. He's pretty decent. 2500 attack, 2800 defense, and he's needed for all the Eldlixir cards that I use in this deck, and for maybe a fusion card. We'll see later on in the deck. We move on to Shiranui Spectralsword, level 2 fire zombie tuner with an amazing effect. If this card is in your graveyard, except the turn it was sent to the graveyard, you can target one non-tuner zombie monster in your graveyard, banish both it and this card, and if you do, special summon one zombie synchro monster from your extra deck, whose level equals the total levels the two monsters had. Now, Spectralsword has pretty crap stats. Usually though, you're not playing it for its stats, or even really playing it, you just want to go in the graveyard. When Spectralsword is in the graveyard with Solitaire, they have a very interesting combined effect. When you banish both of them together, you can summon the Zombie Archfiend's Skull, which really doesn't matter. It's a level 6 Synchro card that stops your zombie monster from being short by card effect. The other effect is Solitaire can special summon one banished Shiranui card, which will always be Spectralsword. Once Spectralsword is summoned, you now have a level 2 tuner and a level 6 Synchro card. You can Synchro summon them into a level 8 Crystal Wing Synchron Dragon, which is an amazing Synchro card. And that's a pretty decent combo, seeing as all you need to do is have two materials in the graveyard, one which is almost always there due to the fact that it's used to make level 8 Synchros. Very good tech card, I'm glad I added it. Next, we move on to Doom King Ballardrock. Doom King Ballardrock is a level 8 zombie effect monster with the effect of, during the standby phase, if a face-up card is in a field zone and this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card in defense position. You can only activate that effect once per turn. So that means even if your opponent has a field spell that's not Zombie World, he summons. Now, the reason Zombie World is fantastic with him is once per chain, when a zombie monster except himself activates its effect, you can apply one of the following. Negate the effect, or banish one monster from the field or graveyard. You can apply each of these effects once. So that means if one of your monsters activates an effect, you can negate it or banish an opponent's monster from the field or graveyard. Fantastic due to the fact that banishing effects, negating monster effects, and his constant summoning back, which makes him great for dumping as a resource into fusions or into links. We move on to traps. One of my favorite traps, which I never see any decks use, but is fantastic. Shiranui style Swallow's Slash. Tribute one zombie monster, then target two cards on the field, destroy them, then banish one Shiranui monster from your deck. You can only activate one of them per turn. So yes, you do have to banish a Shiranui card, again, usually Solitaire, which you can then return using Omega. But its effect of tribute one zombie, destroy two any cards on the field, great trap. Most people don't expect it, and it's great for just taking care of pesky spells, traps, and or monsters, or both. Next, we move on to Return of the Zombies. Return of the Zombies is one of two specialty cards that recycle. Return Zombies' effect is banish one zombie monster in the field, then special summon one zombie monster from the graveyard of the player who controlled it to their field in defense position. If this card is in your graveyard, you can shuffle one of your banished zombie monsters into the deck, and if you do, set this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. So the reason I have this instead of other cards that allow me to special summon zombie monsters is I can use this as a play extender, banish something I really don't need, like Mizuki, banish it, and then summon something from the graveyard. Or if my opponent has a massive monster, we'll say Beelze Diabolic Dragon. Oh shit, I can't destroy it. Well, I'm gonna banish it, and yes, they get to summon a monster from their graveyard, but I just got rid of one of their boss monsters. And that secondary effect allows me to set it and then take that card that I just banished and put it back on, into my deck, which again is fantastic. Next, we have the first of the Eldlixir.
Elixir of the Scarlet Sanguine.
Its effect is special summon one zombie monster from your deck or graveyard. But if you control no Eldlich monsters, you can only summon Eldlich monsters with this effect. For the rest of the turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters except for zombie monsters. You can banish this card from your graveyard, set one golden land spell trap directly from your deck. You can only use one effect of Sanguine per turn, only once per turn. So, the main effect I use in this deck, of course, because I don't have any golden land spell traps, is to summon zombie monsters and Eldlich monsters. So, getting Eldlich Golden Lord out is pretty decent. You guys already know about his stats, and using him for that fusion summon. But if I already have him on the field, this allows me to summon any zombie monster directly from my deck. That's pretty good. Or from my graveyard. The main reason that I'm using this one and the other one that does from the graveyard, not the one that says from the hand or deck. Next, we have Zombie World. Pretty simple. All monsters on the field in the graveyard become zombie monsters, and neither player can tribute summon monsters except for zombie monsters. The second effect I don't think matters anymore, because even with Monarchs, you could have at least one zombie monster. But the effect of turning everything into a zombie helps for things like Doom King Bellerock and Red Eyes Necro Dragon, and a few other cards. Return of the Zombie and such. Staple, needed for the deck, and just would never get rid of it. The second card that recycles, Zombie Nickredace. If a level 5 or higher zombie monster is on the field, target one monster your opponent controls, take control of it until the end phase. During your main phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can shuffle one of your banished zombie monsters into the deck, and if you do, set this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. You can only use one effect once per turn. So the thing that you have to notice about this is, it doesn't say it has to be on your side of the field. It says if a level 5 or higher zombie monster is on the field. If you have a Zombie World on the field, you can use Zombie Nickredace on that monster. Your opponent controls its level 5 or higher, and you don't need to have any cards. So, pretty decent. There were a few other candidates, but none of them really recycled like Nickredace does, so I ended up sticking with Nickredace. Also because there's 1,000,001 ways in this deck to easily get a level 5 or higher zombie monster. Next, we have another staple. You're going to be banishing a lot of cards, and Burial from a Different Dimension. Target up to 3 banished monsters, return them to the graveyard. Oh no! Nothing screams victory like you spending all your Mizukis, activating one of these bad boys, and then continuing your plays with 3 more Mizukis. Next, we have Twin Twister. Discard 1 card, then target up to 2 spell traps in the field, destroy them. It's great for getting cards in the graveyard to continue plays, and it's great for destroying spell and trap cards on the field. The second Eldlixir,
Elixir of Black Awakening.
special summon 1 zombie monster from your hand or deck in defense position, but if you control no Eldlich monsters, you can only special summon Eldlich monsters with this effect. Yada yada yada. Banish this card, set a golden land directly from your deck. So, you might have noticed that I'm not going to have the last one, and the main reason I don't have the last one is it says from the hand or graveyard, and if you don't have an Eldlich monster in your graveyard or hand, it's a dead draw. But Black Awakening and Scarlet Sanguine, you can use them no matter what. And that's the reason I ended up keeping these 2 instead of the last one. Again, if you have them on the field, it's really good because from the hand or deck, though you can't get from the graveyard, it's also a spell, so you can continue plays better than Scarlet Sanguine. Great card, great for getting Eldlich on the field. Foolish Burial. If you run any sort of zombie deck and you don't have this in your deck, what are you doing? Send 1 monster from your deck to the graveyard. Simple as that. Super Polymerization. This is one of the newest cards in this deck. Discard 1 card, fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from either side of the field as fusion material. Neither player can activate cards or effects in response to the card's activation. So, Zombie World's on the field. I have 2 fusion monsters that require at least 1 zombie. One requires a zombie in Eldlich Golden Lord, the other one just requires 2 zombie monsters. With Zombie World on the field, you can now use your opponent's monsters to summon one of your monsters, or use a single one. Does not need targeting. It's fantastic because if you do have an Eldlich monster in your field and you activate this, you can take out enemy boss monster and get one of the most powerful boss monsters in the game. Easy. Great addition to the deck. I'm glad I have it. And also, discarding a card to activate it is pretty decent because it's a zombie deck. Now we move on to the extra deck with Frame God Omega. level 8 Light Psychic Synchro monster. With the effect of once per turn during the main phase, you can banish both this card face up and one random monster from your opponent's hand face up until your next standby phase. So that effect is great protection, and you get to see one card your opponent has in their hand. And depending on what that card is, you can stop their plays. I love it because it allows you to keep Omega for a lot longer. Once per turn during your opponent's standby phase, you can target one of your banished cards, return to the graveyard. That's the main reason I have it in this deck, is for recycling Mizukis. And if this card is in your graveyard, you can target one other card in your graveyard, shuffle both that card and this card from the graveyard into your deck. That is like a very rare occasion that I would ever use that, due to the fact that I have Zombie World out, and I can just summon Omega with Mizuki. The only time I would use that effect is if I lost both of my Zombie Worlds, and I would use him to then shuffle Zombie World into my deck. He also has pretty decent attack stats and defense stats. Next, Beelze of the Diabolic Dragons. Level 8 Dark Dragon Synchro effect monster. It cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects, and if you take damage from an attack involving this card, or from an opponent's card effect, this card gains attack equal to the damage you took. Very good stats, very good effect. I really don't have much more to say about it. If you get Beelze Diabolic Dragon on the field, depending on what your opponent's playing, you could be set for the game. If your opponent doesn't have anything that returns to hand or banishes, you're good. Next, we have one of my favorite cards, Red Eye Zombie Necro Dragon. A level 8 Dark Zombie Synchro monster with the effect of it gains 100 attack and defense for each zombie monster on the field or in the graveyards. When another zombie monster is destroyed by battle, you can special summon one zombie monster from either graveyard to your field. So, one of the main things about Red Eye Zombie Necro Dragon is, even though his stats aren't that good, once you change that to it gains 100 attack and defense for each monster on the field and in the graveyard, it gets usually about 1,000 more attack, which is very good. Secondly, its effect when another zombie monster is destroyed means, okay, an opponent destroys one of your monsters. Great. I special summon that monster back because that monster was a zombie. Or, I destroyed your opponent's boss monster. I'm then going to special summon my opponent's boss monster and keep fighting. Any combat with Red Eye Zombie Necro Dragon, as long as I have enough attack, can lead to an easy victory. Because destroying your opponent's monster, I gain another monster. Destroy one of my monsters, I gain another monster. Simple as that. One of the newest cards in my deck, Red Eye Zombie Dragon Lord, is a dark level 10 zombie synchro monster with not as good as effect as the last one. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can target one zombie monster in your graveyard, accept himself, and special summon it. If this card is in your graveyard, you can banish one zombie monster you control and special summon this card. You can only use each effect once per turn. So the banish effect is very, very good. Summoning a zombie monster from your graveyard is okay too, though it would have been better if it said from a graveyard instead of your graveyard. Also, the fact that you can only activate it during your opponent's turn is, it's decent. I wouldn't put it on the same level as Red Eye Zombie Necro Dragon, but it's a nice addition to the deck and can extend a lot of your plays. Next, we have another one, niche cards. Cards that are in the extra deck in case I face one of these decks that I ever need to bring it out. So, as you know, I only really have Return of the Zombies as a way of banishing an opponent's monster in the main deck. In my extra deck, I have a few other cards. In this case, Dark End Dragon. Dark End Dragon is a level 8 Dark Dragon Synchro monster with a very simple effect. Once per turn, you can target one monster your opponent controls. Dark End Dragon loses 500 attack and defense, and you send that target to the graveyard. This is non-destroying graveyard effect. So Beelze, go to the graveyard. Other cards that are indestructible, as long as I'm able to target, in the graveyard. And I really don't have to worry about it losing all its attack and dying, because then I can just summon it back from the graveyard, because it's a zombie. That was the main reason for having Dark End Dragon. Next, we have another one, Blood Mephist, a level 8 Dark Fiend Synchron effect monster with the effect of once per turn. During your opponent's standby phase, you can inflict 300 damage to your opponent for each card they control. Depending on how filled they can be, you can inflict anything from 1,500 to 3,000 damage per turn. Usually this was used against stall decks, or Exodia decks, or other burn decks, and it's pretty effective. It stops me from having to interact with them for victory. If they want to be, will stall the deck game, fine. I'll stall the game and still win. He also has pretty decent attacks. Next, we have Geomathmech Magma. It is a fire, level 8 Cyber Synchro Tuner effect monster with the effect of when this card destroys a monster by battle, target up to 2 cards your opponent controls and destroy them. And if this card is destroyed by battle, or if a card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can add 1 Mathmech spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. You're never going to use that effect in this deck. Also, that is a really weird way of wording not if this card is destroyed by battle or card effects, it has to be in your possession, destroyed by card effect. So, the main reason I have this card in my deck is its destructive potential is really good. Destroy an opponent's monster and then pop 2 of his cards, which could be other monsters, spell traps. Fantastic addition. Even if I don't use him too much, he comes out sometimes and just wreaks havoc against the enemy. Very good when your opponent is just flooding the field. Next is the Archfiend Zombie Skull, which I talked about earlier. It is a level 6 zombie synchron effect monster with the effect of zombie monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. Even though he has decent stats, he most likely will get sent to the graveyard and never be able to be recovered. Next, the reason why we make that sacrifice, Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. He's a wind level 8 dragon synchro with the effect of once per turn when another monster's effect is activated, you can negate the activation. If you do, destroy that monster. And if you do that, this card gains attack equal to the destroyed monster's original attack until the end of this turn. His second effect is if this card battles an opponent's level 5 or higher monster, this card gains attack equal to the current attack of the opponent's monster only during damage calculation. Those effects are extraordinarily strong, and the fact that he will be fully summoned at that point, which means if he gets destroyed, I can summon it back again, and his really good stats, staple in zombie deck. I'm glad he's here. Now here's one of the newer cards, level 8, Draco Berserker of the Tenhi. He's a Worm Synchro Dark effect monster with the effect of when your opponent activates a monster's effect, you can banish it. If this attacking card destroys an effect monster battle, sends it to the graveyard, this card gains attack equal to the destroyed monster's original attack, and he can make a second attack. You can only use each effect once per turn. So the first effect of, it activates a monster effect. Great, I banish it. Pretty amazing. And the second effect, which if it destroys an effect monster by battle, it permanently gains that monster's original attack, which means it can very easily overpower powerful monsters. Also, you banish it. It literally says you can banish it. There's no targeting on that. So, oh yes, Red Eyes Dragoon. I activate this effect to destroy your... Great, it's banished. Continue your effect, but it's gone. It's so good. Next, we move on to the Link cards of this deck, starting with Avenged Savior, a zombie Link effect monster with 1600 attack, which is kind of shit, but let's go into its effects. This card named becomes Revenged Slayer while on the field. You can only activate each of the following effects once per turn. You can target one Vendred card in your graveyard, add it to your hand. He's the only one in this deck, so don't see how that's going to happen. During damage calculation, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can send one zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard. That monster loses attack equal to the level of the monster times 200 till the end of turn. So the reason I use this is sending resources to the graveyard and destroying opponent's monsters, and as a stepping stone to the more powerful Link cards, such as Shiranui Skill Saga Supremacy, Dark Zombie Link effect monster with the following. Synchro monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. That's why we don't need Zombie Archfiend Skull. Fire monsters you control not be destroyed by battle. She can't be destroyed by battle, so that's pretty good. Also, she has decent attack. During your opponent's turn, you can target one of your banished zombie synchro monsters. Special summon to the zone this card points to. It's rare that I ever use that, because, how many zombie synchro monsters do I actually have in the deck? Aren't really too many, because most of them are just normal synchros that are turned into zombies via Zombie World. Zombie World doesn't do anything if they're banished. But if, say, Necro Skull or Red Eye Zombie Dragon Lord gets banished, she would technically be able to summon it from the banish zone, which is nice. And then finally, such a long name, Yukiona, the Absolute Zero Maikashi, Zombie Link effect monster with the following effects. You can only control one Yukiona, the Absolute Zero Maikashi. Negate any activated effects of your opponent's banished monsters. Okay, that's pretty decent. If a monster is special summoned from the graveyard, or a monster effect is activated in the graveyard, except during damage calculation, you can target one of their face-up card on the field and change its attack to 0. And if you do, negate its effect. So, this is the zombie equivalent of a cubic spawn. Also, the effects that can be activated, like Doom King Balrog gets summoned from the graveyard. Boom, I just negated effect and changed its attack to 0. And if it's during my turn, you know, and that was like their boss monster, it could be game, depending on how it happens. Or I could have Red Eye Zombie Dragon attack it, destroy it, and then special summon it with its attack all back. Also, she has decent attack too. One of the most powerful zombie cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! At the moment, the level 10 Eldlich the Mad Golden Lord. It's a light zombie fusion monster with the following effect. Its name becomes Eldlich the Golden Lord while on the field. Cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Which, by the way, just with that is fucking fantastic. You have a card that's 3800 attack, 3500 defense, and cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. It can be banished, but I can bring him back with Omega. You contribute one zombie monster, then target one face-up monster your opponent controls, take control of it, but cannot attack or activate its effects this turn. That's pretty good. Also, if you want to be cheeky, you have Stormforth of the Monarchs. Tribute one of your opponent's monsters, because they're zombies, because Zombie World, and then take over one of your opponent's monsters. So you can quite literally just be like, that's nice you got there. I'm going to tribute this monster, and then I'm going to capture this monster. That's fantastic. And the other one is Dragon Necro Nethersoul Dragon. Must first be fusion summoned. He's also a level 8 Dragon Fusion monster. He cannot be destroyed by battle. He must be first fusion summoned. Monsters cannot be destroyed by battle with this card, and at the end of the damage step of this card, battle the monster, change that monster's attack to 0. Also, if that monster still face up on the field, special summon one Dark Soul token with the same level and attack as the original level attack of that monster. You can only control one of these cards. With 3000 attack, it's pretty decent for dealing damage, but more often it's good for generating resources, which I can use to link summon with. Also, one of the powerful effects of it is I can use Super Polymerization, take 2 of your opponent's strongest monsters, summon him, attack one of their weaker monsters, and I get a token and continue the plays. And that is about it for this deck. The main portion of this deck is just getting out Omega, going into powerful Synchro plays, and then pretty much surrounding yourself with Zombie World, Mizuki's in the graveyard, and then special summoning whatever you need. And that is my Zombie Revenant deck. Thank you all for watching. This has been Nickredace, and I'll see you in the next video. Nickredace out. La 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 la.